Folks, welcome back. It's Recine time. It's movie season. We're here with Will Menaker. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You have autism.
What's wrong with that? I'm passionate about stuff.
I don't wish you would do anything.
I can't control you.
On Twitter recently, somebody said, what is your favorite New York City movie? And you said, The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3.
The original one.
The original one.
Not the Tony Scott remake, which is still pretty good, but the original one with Robert Shaw, Walter Matthau.
Yeah, I watched it recently, and it's like, you watch like a few minutes of that movie, and you go, this is great. This is they don't make them like this anymore. You have Walter Matthau as the hero. I
love like in the 70s you could have Walter Matthau as like the leading man hero of a movie, you know?
Yeah.
You got that mug out there, and like the heroic figure in this movie is an MTA administrator.
Yes. Yes. Because even in the Denzel remake, he was like a detective, right?
No. It was the same. It was same guy. You're thinking of like Inside Man. He was a detective. Pelham 1, 2, 3. He's still like a subway, bureaucrat basically.
Right. But it's like, even in the remake, it's like John Travolta is the bad guy, and he's like covered in tattoos. It's very like I don't know. It's just everybody's too good looking in that movie. It's like it almost feels like the era of like I don't want to say ugly guy, but
the distinct character actor like face. You know, where you could like and that's what I love about the original Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3 is that like it's such a panoramic portrait of New York City at every level, from like the people who take the subway to like the mayor.
Yes.
It's like at every sort of like institution of like civil authority, like from the police to city hall to the MTA, like all plays a part in this like hostage scenario. And it's very funny. And one of the things, like you said, like everyone in the movie has like just a great 70s New York face. Everyone looks like shit. Everything's terrible. But it's like it's so distinct, and like they filmed that movie, which, you know, if you haven't seen it, it's about these guys. They take a subway car hostage, and they like ransom the city for like, you know, $10 million or something. And they're like, you have an hour to pay up, or we start executing these passengers one by one. And it's this like very precise procedural as you see this like crime play out, and then like as it reverberates through like every level of city government, from like the people who, you know, like keep the trains on the tracks and make sure they don't run into each other, to the mayor and his top aides. But like, it's very funny and it's very detailed. What I love about it is like they filmed that movie in the actual subway tunnels. Like, you know, like, and it's just like the authenticity in it is impossible to beat.
Yeah. Is that not something they do anymore?
I think, it'd be very hard to, I imagine.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I mean, I guess like I don't know why it was possible in the 70s. Probably less people gave a shit, or I don't know what's going on. But like I just like at every street corner, like every feel of it, like just the feel of it is so New York.
There's something also. It's like I really like the way it portrays city workers. Yeah, and I feel like I don't know. There's something about like we all live in the city. There's like millions of I don't know millions, but there's tons of people who make the city like run every single day. And then it's like, you know, you watch the mayor debate, and it's like the only people they talk about are cops.
Right.
You know.
Right. And then like the heroes of the movie are the MTA basically, and like at every level, like it's a testament. It really is a heroic portrait of like city bureaucrats. And like, what's so funny about it is like, you know, they're all these like sweaty, bellowing oafs who are all a little bit racist and misogynistic, and like I like the one guy, like the guy who's in charge of one of the subway stations. He's like,
Kaz something.
He's like, if you tell me I can't curse just because they hired a few broads, I can't run a railroad like this.
That was my favorite part of the entire movie. He's like, how am I supposed to run a railroad? Yeah. And it's like, it's really true. We don't know anything about like how to. You don't know what the people who were running the railroad, what they're like or what they're talking like, and they might not talk like us.
But they make the city work, you know.
Yeah. Why is there not like a Walter Matthau? There's something like refreshing about that movie as you're like getting older, and you go like, oh cool, like the hero is like a guy like me. It looks like shit.
Yeah, like, in fact I think I'm significantly more handsome than Walter Matthau.
Me too. Yeah.
You know, Walter
and
Matthau,
I can't get a freaking job.
Yeah, he's just such a funny actor. Like I love Matthau. He's great. Okay, my favorite scene in the movie is when his character is introduced. It's at the MTA, like the Central Command Center, And he's like, you know, where like all the trains are up on the big board. It's like still that 100-year-old system where they're using like Christmas tree lights to like track all of the trains through the system. And he's escorting a tour of like the heads of the Tokyo Metropolitan Subway system through there, like showing off. And he's talking to them and referring to them as dummies and monkeys over and over again. Mm-hmm. And then like this is a bit that goes on for a while in the movie. And then like they're like, all right, just take these guys upstairs. And then like at one point, like all of them betray the fact that like they speak and understand English fine, and he's just up there like, yeah, oops.
And like we don't have that today. We don't have a Walter Matthau. We don't have a Jack Lemmon. I mean, all of the stars of that age seem to be like, it's like Brad Pitt with a bunch of injections and stuff in his face. You know.
I mean, like I as a movie watcher, as a movie fan, like you always got to have like your guys, you know. And when you see your guys in a movie, like they're usually in smaller roles, but like they always like make a movie for me. Like I'm thinking a contemporary guy that I'm talking about who's like kind of on that Matthau level is like a guy like Shea Wiggum. You know, like I like seeing him in anything.
Who's that?
Okay, he was in the latest Mission Impossible movie. He's like one of the dudes going after Ethan Hunt. He's on all the like Danny McBride shows. Like he was on Vice Principals. He was on Righteous Gemstones. He had a small part on that.
Who do you play on Vice Principal?
He was Gambi's ex-wife's current husband.
Oh,
Ray,
I like that.
The guy with the Fox racing.
Yeah,
shit.
I like that guy a lot.
He was on Boardwalk Empire. He was Nucky's brother on Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah.
Like he's just like one of those like just solid like character actors. So like he's just like I always like to see him.
Ray was such a great character.
Yeah, I love Ray because he's like the anti-Danny McBride character. Because like no matter what happens, he's just unfailingly nice and polite to everyone around him, and it drives Gamby crazy. Because like you want like your wife's current boyfriend or husband to be like just like an asshole who's just always like demeaning you and putting you down. But he's like a guy that one of the only people that genuinely likes and supports Neil Gamby. Like
yeah, and the daughter too.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm just like, why is that? Why do we not have Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon anymore?
I don't know, like a couple reasons. One, I think it's because the diets and nutrition of the average American has changed so much versus like what Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon were eating as a children. Okay. And probably like exposed to like tons of lead and cigarette smoke. Okay. So I feel like people generally like look younger for longer now because they, I don't know, like stay well hydrated and there's more chemicals and preservatives in food and stuff like that. So I think we're losing a lot of the distinct weathered faces that you would used to see in movies. Right. You know, and like a guy like Willem Dafoe, right? Another one of my favorite actors. Like he's got one of like the best faces in movies because like, you know, Green Goblin or whatever, like there's something very distinct and interesting about his face and he knows how to use it on film. Right. And I think that, what's coming through is just like American actors, they're being replaced by Australians. And soon they're going to be replaced by AI, you know, and it's going to be all this kind of homogenized garbage.
That's a great point. Like, I imagine Willem Dafoe doesn't wake up in the morning and go like, I look like shit.
He doesn't have to with a dick that big, reportedly.
Oh, really?
Allegedly, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. But there's something kind of like sad about trying to hold on to youth. There's something liberating about leaning into aging. Yeah, you know,
it happens to everyone. You can't fight it.
It happens to everyone. You can't fight it. But it's also
and now there are treatments for being fat and bald. That's solved. Yeah. That's done. You don't have to worry about that at all anymore. So if you can mitigate like the two worst aspects of aging, you know, like just have fun with it. Then you're liberated to have fun with it.
But then
I'm 42 and I'm blessed by God, walking the golden path. My hairline's standing strong.
Oh, really?
It's standing strong.
Okay,
that's it. But like everything about my self-esteem, self-worth, and self-value would have been obliterated if I had gone bald in my 30s.
Yeah. They do have a lot of people are getting the surgery these days.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. I don't know. Mine's kind of like sneaking up. I never had a problem with it, but it's like, I think maybe we got to do something about it. What are your other favorite New York City movies?
Okay, like I wanted to give this some thought because, like, look, I'm going to go like off the beaten path because you can always say like Taxi Driver, Do the Right Thing, you know, like those are going to be like the top of everyone's list. But a couple ones that just like that came to mind is like there's another sort of a big one. This could be an obvious choice, but this is a movie that like always makes you think of New York City, always feels like New York City to me, and that's Ghostbusters.
Okay.
You know, because that was like my favorite movie as a kid, because it was about, you know, it was filmed in the neighborhood I grew up in. It's all on the Upper West Side, and I really appreciate that about it. Ghostbusters. I'm also going to throw in a Larry Cohen movie called Q the Winged Serpent, which is like a funny, like sort of monster horror movie about a dragon that lives in the top of the Empire State Building.
Okay.
That's fun. Cruising with Al Pacino. That's another good one.
What's that?
That's the William Friedkin movie. The guy directed The Exorcist. This is for the time, very controversial and much hated movie, where it's about Al Pacino has to go undercover as a gay leather daddy in the late 70s, hardcore, like BDSM gay leather scene in New York City.
I've never even heard of that.
Cruising, check it out.
Yeah, you would think, has that been like wiped from?
No. I mean, like it was very controversial on its release. It was critically panned, but I think it was re-released like I don't know, about like 15, 20 years ago. It got like a sort of a new appreciation or retrospective. I really like Abel Ferrara's Bad Lieutenant. That's another movie that like feels as kind of like degrading and stressful as like living in New York City
with Harvey Keitel.
Yeah, Harvey Keitel. Yeah.
Okay.
The scene where like, I love the conceit in that movie where like, as this guy like destroys his life through like drug addiction and insanity over like the space of about a week.
Yeah.
A big part of it is that he keeps betting money. There's a fictional baseball playoff series going on in it between the Dodgers and the Mets. And he's taking bets from all of his friends who work on the force, and he's convincing them to bet on the Mets, even though he's taking all of their money and betting it with his bookie on the Dodgers. And it takes place over the course of like an epic 4-game comeback where the Mets are down 3-0, and they keep winning games, and he keeps betting on the Dodgers until he's like hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt to the mafia. And New York sports radio figure Chris Russo is sort of like the Greek chorus in that movie, as he's driving around in a car like sniffing coke and losing his mind. On the radio, you hear Chris Russo's like account of this fictional baseball series as the Mets get closer and closer to pulling off this amazing. I mean, it's fictional, so you know obviously the Mets have never done that against the Dodgers, but I love like the voice of New York sports talk radio and like our sports teams itself being the kind of the Greek chorus or the background to like the utter dissolution of this guy's life.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one in forever, but it is fun watching a guy destroy his life.
yeah, that's what movies are for.
Yeah. I guess the only scene I remember is when he pulls over those 2 girls.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Michelle, have you seen that one?
Of course, that's the one scene you remember. Yeah.
Yeah, and then so you grew up here.
Yeah.
So like how long have you been involved in local, like when did you start paying attention to like local politics?
Probably, I mean, like, you know, like about the same age I was paying attention to national politics. And I think it was probably around, I'm old enough that I remember when David Dinkins lost to Rudy Giuliani.
Really?
Yeah. And like, you know, my parents on the loony lib Upper West Side, you know, they get very disturbed about this, but Giuliani time and stuff like that. But I do remember Giuliani's mayorship. And like, I guess like that's when I started paying attention to local politics. And you know what? I think it was like, I knew he was like, you know, a tough on crime guy, but I think the incident that like got me really focused on him was towards the end of his, like before 9/11, towards the end of his mayoralty. There was that whole controversy about the, like, I think the exhibit was called Controversy that was held at the Brooklyn Museum.
Okay.
And
right, with the elephant.
Yeah, the Virgin Mary was like painted with like a, you know, like a elephant dung by like a British African artist. There was a lot of weird, like, you know, edgy, like out there, weird, crazy art in this exhibit. That was the whole point of it. But I remember like he injected like himself and made a huge media spectacle about it. And he tried to get like the Brooklyn Museum to cancel it. And to me, it just represented like everything that New York isn't. You know, this like parochial fucking like as mayor of New York City, like the biggest cosmopolitan metropolis in the world, that you would be like trying to get a museum exhibit canceled because it offends your particular religious sensibilities. It's like that to me, like that was fucking dog shit to me. And like that's when I really, you know, became like angered by this idiot's, you know, like, and then of course 9/11 happens, and I got to see the entire country hail him as America's mayor. And then like even my parents' friends be like, I never liked him, but, on that day, I was really glad he was mayor. It's like, what? So we could walk around looking confused, covered in ash? Like, what the fuck did he do that was so impressive? Like, he actually, this is funny. Giuliani put New York City's emergency command response center in Tower 7 of the World Trade Center.
He did.
And that's why he was walking around on the street that day, because they had nowhere to fucking go. If you don't remember that. Okay. And then keep in mind, this was years after the first World Trade Center bombing. So if you're going to find a place for New York City's emergency command center, it was a pretty good choice.
You know what, though? I do remember hearing, like, being a freshman in high school when 9/11 happened and hearing his voice on the radio and just thinking, like, we are in good hands. I remember, like, I did get a lot of comfort from that. I remember thinking, like, okay, he's got it. The adults are in charge. But I guess that's how you bring in his 2 terms, sort of ushered in, like, Bloomberg era, right? So it's like, but I guess that's how you got to start. You got to start with, like, you got to say, hey, they're throwing poop on the Virgin Mary. You got to get all the Catholics riled up, you know. They go, they're throwing poop on the Virgin Mary, and then, and I'm sure. But I wonder, like, what do you remember about him being mayor? Did the city feel different? Because my parents, I feel like when you're Italian, you're either like a John Gotti family or you're a Giuliani family. And I will admit that I do come from a Giuliani family. Right. We did kind of like, we really sort of worship. My mom she worked in the city in the 80s. She never lived there, but she worked in Midtown. And so she was like, yeah, no, he cleaned up the city. But what did it feel like for you?
Well, it's unquestionable that in the 90s, like, New York City was cleaned up to, like, a large degree. And Times Square being, like, the perfect example of that. Because, like, it was under Giuliani's tenure, and that was, like, a big, like, sort of, I don't know, tentpole of his administration, was that they did, like, for whatever you want to say it, like, clean up Times Square. And it became, like, a genuine tourist attraction and, like, what it is now. Whereas it, like, I don't have, like, very many memories because I was, like, way too young to be, like, when Times Square. But I remember, like, when it was, like, actually, like, a very seedy neighborhood that was for, like, there were, like, this pornography, cruising, like, just, like, street crime. It was where tourists would go to get, like, robbed at knife point, and, like, that just really doesn't happen anymore.
Right.
And
you're walking around, you're like, Al Pacino?
yeah. But then, crime went down all over America in the 90s. And the funny thing is, like, now in 2025... Like, and I've lived in this city, like, for like 40 plus years now. Like, when I was a kid in the 90s under Giuliani's tenure, like, New York City was like, after, like, being like a genuinely very high crime city in like the 70s and 80s and early 90s, there was like a steep decline. But the thing is, like, that city was still much more dangerous than it is now. And when I hear a lot of people talk about crime in New York City now, it's just like, well, yeah, like, street crime is never, a great thing to experience, but like by every conceivable metric, like, New York is objectively safer as a lower crime city than it was even in the 90s, like, when it was going down under Giuliani. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, like, why was that? Because didn't they start, like, isn't there a theory that they just started taking lead out of the paint?
Yeah. Like, I like, as an explanation for, like, why crime, like, across the board, across the entire country, and, like, in areas, like, that you can't point to, like, oh, it's because, like, this area turned around economically or not. It's just sort of, like, seemingly across the board, despite, like, certain discrete areas, crime in America, like, has just been declining steadily from about the 90s to now till then. And there is a theory that, like, when they took lead out of, like, paint and gasoline and stuff, the, like, overall exposure of a population to, like, lead, which has been shown to, like, over time build up in, like, lower impulse control and, like, heightened aggression and things like that. Look, this is I think it's like a neat and kind of fun example. I don't know how much it's entirely can be put on taking on environmental factors, but, like, for whatever reason, like, and anyone who's afraid of crime in New York City now, like, when I hear people talk about it, like, when I hear people talk about New York City, like, in the national media, or I hear people, like, talk about it, like, oh, now that Zohran's mayor, they're like, oh, like, it's like Mad Max in the streets or something, and it's like, it's really not, like, it's fine, like,
I know, yeah,
I was mugged twice, like, as a kid. Okay, well, that was the last time I've ever been victimized by street crimes. That was like 25 years ago.
Yeah, I have a friend who's he lives in Florida. He's very right wing, and he's like, your son's really sweet. I'd hate to see him be a target. Like there's just a gang of criminals being like, all right, let's find some 4-year-olds and take their Sonic the Hedgehog hat, take their Roblox. But yes, so that's interesting. So there was 8 years of Giuliani and then 12 years of Bloomberg.
12 years of Bloomberg, yeah.
And so, and I guess I moved here in 2007. But then after Bloomberg, there was like de Blasio,
right?
So that was kind of interesting because he was kind of a dark horse in the primary, right? And then so it's like, but then it's like, oh, there's this guy who's like, he's progressive, he's got a mixed family, and so that was like interesting. But how did you feel about his? But I remember it was very easy to be like, I remember being like mad at him a lot.
Yeah. Bill de Bungler. I mean, look, that is the job of being New York City mayor. We can talk about like Zohran, like, he's coming in with a lot of juice right now. But like, as soon as you become mayor, you just become like the sin eater for like 10 million people. The anger, rage, and anxiety that everyone living in this city feels all the time.
Right.
I think like, obviously like, people remember Bill de Blasio as just like what a disaster that was. But like, was it really? Like, I don't remember anything like truly disastrous. And like, I think the thing that matters about Bill de Blasio is that like after 12 years of Mayor Bloomberg and the previous 8 years of Giuliani, like pro-police administrations that had, in their defense, like quite a record of like a steady and massive decline in crime under their tenures. But then like the line was like Bill de Blasio ran on ending the practice of stop and frisk by the NYPD. And he did. And when it came into office, like it was like the narrative in the media among like people in like city politics was like, oh, like it's bound to the bad old days. It's going to be like Taxi Driver again. It's like you're going to see like mountains of trash on fire and like, like the Warriors, the baseball Furies are going to take over neighborhoods again. And that really didn't happen. And in fact, crime continued to drop under Bill de Blasio's tenure as well. So like, I guess my point is that like, I don't like, it's hard to point at like a single policy, like either a tough on crime policy or loony liberal hug-a-thug policies that can like conclusively be said to be like, oh, like this is what causes crime to drop one way or another. Like, I don't know.
I watched The Warriors with my 4-year-old a couple months ago.
Movie.
He really liked it.
Okay, that's another classic New York movie. That's you know what? Another great New York City movie, Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Okay.
I love Die Hard with a Vengeance. Like
that's the one with the sandwich board?
Yes. Of course, that's once again, you remember that scene. But it's a great scene. And what I love about it is like in the first look, Die Hard with a Vengeance falls apart as soon as they leave New York City. As soon as they get on that boat and then like they're, I don't know, like in the Catskills or something.
Okay.
But the first hour and a half in that movie with Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson is fantastic. And what I love about it is that like all the locations and geography of Manhattan that they like traverse in the movie is like totally credible, totally real. I love the scene where they drive a taxi cab through through the actual Central Park. That's fantastic. I love everything about Die Hard with a Vengeance as a New York City movie.
Wait, but did Eric Adams get a lot of repeat? I mean, I know people didn't like him, but I think he took it. I think he probably took it pretty well. Took people's anger pretty well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Right? I think that was like the best thing about him is that like he seemed unfazed by being like a detestable, corrupt, a criminal essentially. But like he's Eric Adams is great. He was too cool for school. He was having fun throughout the whole time. And
it did kind of feel like it's like we had De Blasio, who represented like the city's sort of like progressive like socialist tendencies. But then it's like Eric Adams comes in. It's like, oh, we're like cool again. You need like a cool guy in there. So I do want to ask you about Zohran a little bit. So you interviewed him like a year ago, and I think you were one of the first.
I interviewed him like a week before the election too.
Yeah. And nice guy seems like. So now there's a little bit of, well, people are upset about some of the decisions that he's made already. Some of the stuff that he said, about, I think he said stuff like, I don't like Hamas, probably, and people are very upset about that.
As they should be. Look, I had Zohran on my show a couple times, like once, like before Cuomo was even in the race, and then once again, like a week before the election. And the most recent one, I did ask him about Jessica Tisch, his police commissioner, and that's a good example of a thing that like a lot of supporters are like they're raising an eyebrow, they go, ooh, like
right.
It's sort of like, okay, like you just won,
right?
Like what? You could appoint anyone police commissioner. It could just be like a regular just like regular liberal stuff. I don't know. Like you can put anyone.
You just find a girl in Bushwick. And
yeah.
Find the girl smoking.
Why do you need this person in particular, especially given that like she presided over the like incredible crackdown on civil rights that happened like on City University or Columbia University. Her whole family has spent millions of dollars trying to prevent Zohran from becoming mayor. Is a like dyed in the wool Zionist. Like her whole like it just seems like. Why would you want someone in charge of the NYPD who seems like pretty much at every level is going to be working to undermine you and your agenda? Look, I think like what I interpret about like what his incoming administration or what the strategy is here, and I'm not defending this. I'm just like trying to like state it as clearly as I understand it. Is that like they were elected on like kind of an affordability agenda, make the city more affordable, make it more livable for the people who live here. And I think like the calculation is probably like the NYPD is so much of its own independent government at this point that is like really kind of, I don't know, loose from any kind of civilian authority or control. Like a huge amount of its budget comes from the federal government. They are like a state within a state. And I think like, the thinking goes like, I'm not going to bog down my entire first term in mayor fighting with like this incredibly arguably more powerful government within a government that like best to make my peace with it now and just sort of like look, that's the argument. However, like I think that's setting yourself up for failure. And this is something I've been critical of. Like I'm not, look, I supported Zohran. I had him on the show. I canvassed for him. I raised money for him. I'm glad he's mayor. But like, like on the left, there's always this like, monkey's paw thing of like, do you really want your guy to get in power? Do you really want that? Because then in some way you're like accountable for like what he does or doesn't do as mayor. But you know what? Like that's a pill that you have to swallow. That's something you have to like at least be willing to risk looking like kind of a jerk if it turns out that like, he sells out like all of the things he ran on.
Yeah. And I guess I'm just wondering though, like, is that, I mean, what's going on with him? Like, does he feel like it's something that he needs to do? I just wonder what he's going through because I'm sure he just reminds me of like so many people that I know. And I feel like, you watch him and I'm like, I know what you and your wife probably talk about at home. I know the stuff that you guys say. So it's like, why does he feel like he has to make all these concessions?
Like I said, like I can only speculate or project like what my own thinking would be were I in his position. And I think like I think they're trying to be like, look, we're gonna like this is the like easiest way to like enact our agenda quickly, show people we're doing something, and then like make a real benefit like in terms of like the free buses or like rent freeze or the things that like he ran on and wants to like show quickly that he can make a difference and make a difference in people's lives that's felt and that like so that like he's not going to like as he kept being accused of in the primary, like, why are you making everything about Israel? And it's just like, well, because every
that's all you
time
ask me about.
That's all he gets asked about.
Yeah.
So like to a certain extent that like he's sort of staying true to that.
Right.
But my question is like, you've just won, right? You've just like thoroughly defeated the Democratic Party in this city, who like ran against you harder than even the Republicans, or like, and like the national media too. They tried at every step to undermine you, to assassinate your character, and to like basically do everything possible to prevent what you just pulled off. So it's just sort of like, I don't know what it's like when you actually have power, or how much like power is even really there at your disposal. Because for all I know, they're like, very nice on winning the election. We tried as hard as possible to stop you. That was bad enough that you technically are mayor. But now we're just going to like bring you into this room here. And,
right.
The top of the Empire State Building. Right. And we're just going to show you like, this is all well and good.
Yeah.
But if you go much further with this, we're going to do another 9/11. Like Israel's like, we're just going to do 9/11 again.
No, that's what it feels like. I mean, it feels like that happens with every single person that is like cool.
Yeah.
They all get absorbed by the system.
Look, and like I said, I'm interested. Like, he's not even mayor yet. And you can point to like things on his transition team that are good or bad. Like I said, like I think what we're going to get out of his mayoralty is like maybe a slightly more progressive, like Bill de Blasio style administration, which I'll take. Okay, I'll take it. And just the fact that like he was elected in the first place, like in the face of the like overwhelming opposition to his candidacy and to like the people who supported him from, like I said, the entire Democratic Party, the entire national media, like just about every source of institutional political power in this country. that's a W that is worth celebrating in my opinion. But I guess like when I
remember watching the debates and thinking like, man, this guy really threads the needle very well.
Yeah.
Like I'm watching the debate and I'm like, I know like probably how he feels and what he wants to say, but he's saying this, and I think he's like doing a good job, you know, getting elected.
I can see from the perspective like I didn't run on making Israel Palestine like the point of my being mayor, right?
Mm-hmm,
like that's something that like was forced on me by like I think like a lot of the outrageous propaganda and like attacks on him and everyone who supported him. And I think the most important thing about him being mayor is he proved that like not only does that shit not work, but if you like stand strongly enough against it, it will gain you votes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it gave him a lot of momentum, and it's a stand-in for other things too. Because if you're like, well, if you can tell like the Zionist lobby to go fuck themselves in New York City, then like at least it can be reasonably assumed that you'll be like standing strong on much less on issues that have like much less like very serious money and power like and violence behind it.
Right.
You know, but that being
like
said,
if you want to be like the mayor of Cleveland, then you have a better chance.
yeah. But I mean, I guess like the counter argument to that is like, well, like you're in power now. Like you've done something extraordinary. Like you have power. Like you have the office of the mayor. What are you going to do with it? And if you're like not going to have a fight about this now, then like what's the point of winning the election? Yeah, and then what's the point of sort of abandoning the people who got you elected and worked hard to get you elected? I mean, like, look, I struggle with this. I go back and forth because, like, on the other side, it's just sort of like, look, like I said, as soon as you become mayor, it's just like everyone is pissed off at you because the trains aren't on time. Sure. And like, but that's the heat in your apartment is broke. Exactly. Yeah, right. But it doesn't matter. Right. It doesn't matter. Yeah. And like, I think he wants. There's, I guess, a pragmatic case to be made about being like, don't get bogged down in these like sort of very controversial sort of like culture war or like the sort of flashpoint issues that like people that he very deftly diffused that when people tried to like push on him, they try to like force him into. I think he very deftly diffused that. Right. And I think like he's like I think the calculus here is that like avoid that as much as possible and just try to like show that you can make a difference, especially in affordability and like the day-to-day lives of New Yorkers. Who like for the most part like don't have much patience or like they don't really like a lot of people. I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but like I think for like his broader coalition, there are people like who really, really do care that like if the city invests in like Israel bonds, for instance, which we absolutely shouldn't. There's no reason for that to continue. Right. But like it wasn't just like people who are like anti-Zionist or pro-Palestinian who are voting for him, and that's not, if that were the case, he wouldn't be mayor. Interesting. Like he's looking at it like like a constituency of a very broad like a very broad. Selection of like many different kinds of New Yorkers and many different classes and races and things like that. And I think like, for like the South Asian elderly population of New York City that he did like Assad numbers with, who voted for him by like 99% or something. Okay. I'm not so sure that like, people like that really like, the calculus is that like they really want you to be like seeing you behind that podium at Gracie Mansion or City Hall or whatever, fighting some shit about like divesting from Israel every day, or do they just want like like their landlord to fix their fucking like toilet or whatever? Yeah, I guess not. Yeah, I guess I make the mistake of thinking that like of course everybody thinks like me. Right. Like I'm a progressive and I know stuff and everybody. But once again, I come back on like the counter to that is like so much of his support from like the so-called commie corridor in Brooklyn comes from people like who for whom this issue is very important, and like him being elected is symbolically very important about like like a pro-Palestinian Muslim immigrant being mayor of New York City, right? We've forgotten 9/11. It's great. Finally, we can move on with our fucking lives. Yeah. But like so it's like. I guess my attitude is like in the election is one thing. Now that you have power and this issue is going to be forced on you one way or another, why not fight it out? Yeah. I mean, ultimately, that's kind of what I feel. Right. And it has to come down to that at some point, right? Like it has to come down to just like the person being willing to not be liked, I guess. Right. Yeah. And the thing is, like, he has shown himself very willing to be hated by, like, 40% of the city's voters, or, like, at least, like, many of their most well-heeled and powerful individuals in this city. Do you think it's that high, 40%? Probably lower than that.
Okay,
Of
but
people who
it's
vote.
a lot.
Yeah. It's like I said, like I think the majority. I think he's got a lot of goodwill. But like it'll be. But the thing is, it's New York City, and like I said, being mayor of New York City is like the worst job in the world, and that goodwill is going to go quickly as soon as he becomes mayor. So it's a question of like managing and maintaining that as best you can.
Yeah, it's got to be tough. I want to ask you about this because it's like I never really paid attention to politics before 2017, and then like Trump got elected, and then I was like, okay, I got to start figuring this stuff out. So I started listening to you guys, and that led to led to me discovering a lot of other stuff, and I still listen to you guys, and it's still like the show's really good. It's not heavy-handed. It's accessible. It's fun. And as someone who like knows that political commentary is like hard to do, do you have any like guidelines as to how you approach it? Or
yeah. No, I was thinking about this, and like this is something like I struggle with as someone like politics is where we draw like the vast majority of the material that we do on the show. That is still at the end of the day for like entertainment purposes. Like I don't pose myself as like a public intellectual or an expert. Like this is just things that like.
You don't, but I'm sure people see you that way.
Yeah, but well, as they should. But I'm not. I'm not saying that's what other people can say about me. But like, I certainly don't regard myself that way.
Yeah.
No, and it's tough. We've been doing the show like coming up on 10 years now, and like sometimes it's a drag. And like recently, especially when like because the last 2 years of news has been so grim.
Yeah.
I'm thinking specifically about like Gaza, and just like every day you just see like. Just human life just desecrated on just like such an ungodly level with like the total support of our entire government and media, and it's sickening to me. But like the times that I felt like flailing the most or the least confident in myself is when like I feel like you have to kind of cleave yourself with a compulsion to like speak about these things in a way that where you're like sort of like I have to show my audience that like this is very bad, and like we all like I feel like like tortured or I feel disgusted by this, or we should all feel outraged by this. I think like you have to like you can't have that like didactic. Like I think you just have to trust your audience enough that you can just talk about things like naturally and organically, and assume that like we all know how to feel about this, right? Like I don't need to like demonstrate for you like how you should be responding to this like emotionally or intellectually. And I think like sometimes that's like, I fall short of this bar a lot of times too, because I feel like it's just when I can get out of my head like this sense of like, oh, I have a responsibility to like I don't know, like empathize or speak for the feelings of my listeners, and like I just think like if I'm not trying to do that, like that'll happen naturally. And like I think like that's just a good rule of thumb, is that like you can't be like imagining or speaking for your audience, like, or you're imagining what they feel and trying to speak to that. You have to just sort of like give them the credit of like assuming that like what they think and feel will not be too dramatically different, and they're not looking to you for like moral instruction about like how to like feel emotionally or what to say about an issue. You should just like say what you feel about it and have the trust that like what you're thinking and feeling, like express it in an organic way, is going to go a long way to like maybe articulating what other people feel as well. And I just think it's like getting out of the head of like thinking about your audience as this kind of invisible like ombudsman or editor that you have to like appeal to. And I think like because I think that leads to like a kind of staleness or inauthenticity, or like it just like the conversation doesn't flow as naturally. So like that's and it's like it's a hard thing to do, but it's something I have to remind myself of a lot. So like when it comes to like what I think are best practices for like how to talk about serious political issues, or like often life and death stakes, in a way that is still funny and entertaining, or feels like kind of lively or organic, or just something that's interesting or fun to listen to. Right.
I think that's a big part of it, giving your audience the credit, and because I never feel like I'm being preached to, and I never feel like you're like telling people what to do.
Yeah. And like and I think if you take audience reaction or like read the comments too seriously or too deeply, then you can sort of create for yourself in your head this like imaginary figure of like the commentator who's like demanding something of you, or like why don't they take a stronger stand on this, or like I disagree with this, or like how could they possibly say so, like fuck Will Menaker, like he's a piece of shit, like
who says that?
Well, plenty of people.
Okay.
But like, look, their names, addresses, and IPs have all been tracked.
Great.
Categorized. They've all been put in the card has been filed away. No.
Yeah. You send them a picture of their house.
Of them sleeping, taken with a night vision camera.
They're like, I think maybe we should not fuck with Will Menaker.
I
heard that about MC Hammer, actually.
Really?
Yeah, he was like a scary guy.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it hammer time. No, and sorry, I forget what I was thinking, but like, and like, like to me, it's just like, even about things, like to me, like the things that are the most horrible and the most evil and the most like the things that makes me most despairing about like the experience of being alive. It's like, I don't know any other way to deal with that other than humor or comedy. And you can call it like an ironic detachment or nihilism or whatever. Like to me, it's like, I just think like, that's what comedy and tragedy are like the same thing. It's just like a matter of perspective. And like to me, like humor is like is always going to be the sort of the lens through which I like have to talk about any political issue, because it is also absurd and evil. But to me, like evil and absurdity, like that's what comedy is to me.
Right. Yeah, and it's like it's hard to do. I did send Michelle a clip this week of somebody that I know who was like doing her podcast, and she was, the tone of it was very much like, we just gotta get out there. We gotta get out there and protest and call our Congress people and sign the stuff. And to me, that just feels like a lower way to do it, because you are kind of like,
well, like and that's the other thing. Like I don't ever want to be like someone's like another parent or authority figure, because like I don't know what the fuck to do.
Right.
Like I really don't know. I mean, like obviously, like I will never speak out against, like I'll never be like against protesting or calling your congressman or being politically active or organizing in any way.
Sure.
But you don't need me to tell you to do that. Right. Like I think we've been pretty clear on the show that like the politics is what happens like when you're not listening to the podcast or being online. The like politics are what you like, actions that are not passive, that are like active participants in a political issue or struggle that you were like organizing at any level, protest, writing about it. It's something you care about, or something you read a lot about,
right,
or you want to engage in some way. Like that to me is politics. So like I would hate it, and I would feel like totally like it would just be embarrassing to me if I was out there like, today's call of action is like, I need everyone to like, and like, and a lot of times that pisses people off. Like they want us to be more of like, I don't know, like a clearinghouse for like, for activism and like calls to action and things like that. But to me, it's just like, I don't know what the right thing to do is. Like, I don't know how to, we're all just waiting for the same miracle, which is that like, maybe we'll have a better economic and political system that like values human life and, cares about the betterment of all of our quality of life and the continuation of our civilization into the next 100 years or so. We're all waiting for a miracle at this point.
Right. Yeah, because I feel like, when I listen to my hero, Nick Fuentes, and he starts... And he starts talking about like how like women are difficult to be around. Did
you see him on Piers Morgan, where Piers was like, "Have you ever had sex?" And he was like, "No."
Yeah.
I'm proud of it.
Yeah, you know what, Pierce? That just makes us like him even more.
Yeah.
A guy he's yeah. Thanks for reminding us how powerful he is. Yep. Maybe he's kind of like Jesus or Michael Jackson in that way, where he doesn't need to have sex.
No, of course not.
I actually heard Nick Fuentes doesn't even have genitals.
No, could be.
Yeah.
I mean, that would account for his voice.
Right. Yeah. But I do feel, because I do listen to. Do you listen to him from time to time?
I mean, like I see clips of him.
Yeah.
I'm like I will say I find everything about him repellent, and like in a better society, like he would be like I don't know, doing like forced labor on some agricultural farm, or just wouldn't be
okay.
a popular political commentator. But I will say he is gifted with something that
Adam thinks he's talented.
Well,
Adam is a big fan of his, actually.
Of course, but well, to Adam's point is like he is imbued with like a singular characteristic that that almost everyone else on the right wing lacks entirely, which is a sense of humor and irony, which like he does, he does, may not be to your liking, but like as a effective political communicator, this is what we were just talking about from my own experience. Being authentically funny is one of the most effective and disarming things you can do.
For sure. Yeah, they say Hitler was kind of funny.
I don't think that's true.
No, okay.
No, I don't think Adolf Hitler was ever funny.
Okay.
But keep in mind, he became the Reichs Chancellor of Germany, which is a country where nobody is funny.
Nobody's funny.
So like, I mean, there are cultural differences here.
Yeah, it just is odd to see Fuentes saying stuff like, the right and the left need to come together. Maybe we can make some compromises, and he is like, I don't know. I do enjoy listening to some of the stuff he says about Israel and stuff like that.
I like how mean he is to his like listeners and commentators.
That's fun. Yeah. I did see the other day some guy was like, I'm a Syrian Christian. I came here to eat bacon and celebrate Christmas. And he was like, get the fuck out of our country.
That is pretty funny.
Yeah. It's very like Sopranos-esque, where you're watching two pieces of shit. Go at it. Okay, so we talked about New York City movies. Are there any movies? Do you have any favorite like non-New York City movies? Are there any movies where you go like
about other cities, or about just any other movie that doesn't take place in New York City?
Any other movie?
Oh, okay, yeah. But where
I just feel like there's something.
Where do you want to start?
Well, there's something cool about like But do they make movies about other cities that are not New York? I don't know.
There are a few about Los Angeles.
I know. Yeah. But there's something cool about when you watch like a Coen Brothers movie and it takes place in like the Midwest.
Yeah.
And you go like, and then you go to the Midwest and you go, interesting. This feels a little, it's a little.
Or like an Alexander Payne movie would be another example of that.
Yeah. What, like Election or?
Election, Nebraska.
Nebraska's a good example. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Loved Eddington.
You loved it?
Yeah, I loved it.
See, I was going to see it. I had two passes. Me and my kid walked out of Superman because he wanted to leave 20 minutes in.
Wait, you want to leave 20 minutes into Superman?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He goes, Daddy, I want to go. Yeah. So we left, and then they gave us two passes, and then Eddington was out. But I read some Letterboxd reviews of Eddington, and I said, oh, maybe I shouldn't see this. But you liked it.
I liked Eddington a lot. In terms of movies that came out this year, I mean, like, I still have to see like a lot of the big like Oscar movies that are going to be like, I still haven't seen Hamnet.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to seeing that one. Or like, Train Dreams is another one. I haven't seen it like a lot of the big ones, but like Eddington I liked a lot. I think we may differ on this, but I thought One Battle After Another was like fantastic.
You thought it was fantastic?
I thought it was amazing. I loved every minute of it.
You loved every minute of it?
I adored it. I thought it was the movie, yeah, I loved it.
Okay.
I loved it.
See, I've actually read Michael Parenti's Make Believe Media, so I think I probably experienced movies from a different, having read that book. I actually understand the messages that they're trying to. But you didn't feel like it was like finger waggy at all, or like
no, not really.
Okay.
I thought it was like a movie that was like by equal turns like funny and thrilling and frightening.
Okay.
And like I think it wasn't finger wagging to me because it was kind of like a movie about failure.
Okay.
Kind of about the failure of the left.
Yeah.
So like I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Sometimes the left isn't always effective.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes we just go like set ourselves on fire, literally and figuratively. And we realized that was kind of the wrong decision to make. That's an interesting point. Yeah, I guess I don't know. Maybe I'm just too stubborn when I'm watching stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I'm like kind of a creative. So I'm just like, this is what I would do.
What's the last really good movie that you've seen? Like, a current release or just like anything you watched on TV or like rented?
Yeah, I liked Begonia a lot.
Begonia, yeah.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen that one.
You haven't seen it?
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Our boy Stavi.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll definitely check out Begonia.
Yeah, I thought it was good. And then Pelham 1, 2, 3, and then Muppet Christmas Carol.
I
Obviously.
love Muppet Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
Michael Caine, fantastic.
That might be the best holiday movie.
Oh yeah. That and It's a Wonderful Life and Muppet Christmas Carol for me.
Okay. Jingle All the Way is really good.
Oh,
too.
I love Jingle All the Way. I love Jingle All the Way.
Yeah. Yeah, very funny. So, and then any other, what else came out this year? I'm trying to think.
I'll tell you what I thought was, I think, like the most, I'm not saying it's a bad movie, but I think is the most overrated movie this year.
Yeah.
Sinners.
Okay.
Did you see that?
No.
Okay. Like to
But
me, it was like,
that's what I've heard. Yeah.
There was things about it I liked, but like to me, it was just like about 40 minutes too long. Kind of like,
Okay.
It's good. I enjoyed it. Not a bad movie, but like it's just like the way people are gassing it up. I think is not commiserate with the movie I saw.
Okay. It seems like these days a lot of people are checking out with like the whole system and everything, and I don't know that much about the Netflix Warner Brothers merger, but it seems like everything's just getting kind of bad and people are disillusioned with the way things are like made. And I don't know, do you like, because I think about how like people are talented and then they kind of get absorbed by they have to go to Hollywood and then they have to,
And now, like, Netflix is the only people like buying stuff in Hollywood if you want to get something made, or like they're one of the major ones. And like, I think a lot of people are like, shit, like I don't want to make a fucking movie for Netflix, but they have all the money. Like,
yeah, like does that ever bum you out? Like you see somebody like Zohran, who's like a talented politician, and you worry that he's going to get absorbed by the system, and then same thing with talented, actors or filmmakers or whatever.
I mean, like, you see it all the time. And like, look, there are obviously like always counter examples, but like, I think movies have gotten like, like I said, there's a homogeneity in terms of like the studios, like they only want to spend like a lot of money on movies that are things that they like people already know of. They know it's like going to cause like, there's nothing unique or like going to cause any moments like friction or tension in your mind. It's like the grooves are just already carved. And they just want people to like just passively receive like more Harry Potter, more Star Wars, like stories and characters that people already know.
Yeah.
That like,
and there is a Walter Matthau, but he's like locked in a cage somewhere. He was purchased by the studio.
Yeah, like the
It's like, are you going to let me make a movie?
Like the Little Rascals,
like the Little Rascals, yeah. Yeah, he was an orphan owned by the studio. Yeah. I don't know, like what's the what's the future? What do creative people have to like?
We were talking about this just the other day on my show, and like obviously, like with the Netflix Warner Brothers merger, and then the proposed Paramount Warner Brothers hostile takeover. Obviously, like with everything, it's just like 4 corporations are going to own like everything. Everything. It's going to be like Amazon, and then like it's just like in the entertainment business especially, it's just like it's just like 2 pipelines. It's just 2 sewer pipes that are just like flushing shit out nonstop. Those are your only 2 options, and like it all flows back to those 2 fucking toilets.
Yeah.
And like a lot of people are sort of forecasting like, is this the death of movies as like kind of like a major narrative art form that's like has popular purchase and like an effect on the culture. And like I don't know, I think that may be like a little too pessimistic. Like I said, assuming that like I live to be like the average age of someone of my cohort, like I fully expect there are still to be people making, producing, distributing, and watching movies like when I die. However, I mean, like I'm sad to say, like I kind of feel like it's like the way like book reading and like literacy is going. I think like it's still going to be around, but I think it's increasingly going to become more and more the province of like a very educated upper class. It'll be sort of like what going to the movies or going to see like a movie in the theater. I think by in like 20 or 30 years will be kind of like what going to see the opera at like Lincoln Center is now.
Interesting. Yeah, and then what will regular people be entertained by? They'll just put on like
just
a
10-second clips of I don't know, like or like AI generated, like I don't know, because it's like I like. Or it'll just be like things that are like very personalized, like very like, like everyone is now can exist in their own like kind of siloed.
My kids
media.
Are like, Dad, they made an even bigger dog. I'm like, kids.
I think it'll just be like more of like the instant short, I don't know, like experience that's like on your phone, on your computer, like on your laptop, that's like very specifically tailored for you, and not like not like a story or a work of art that is like, the product of a singular vision or and a collaborative effort, but something that's meant to be like experienced the same way by a lot of people, but like felt in different ways. That can be like a communal, kind of collective, emotional, artistic experience. Like I think that's going to become rarer and rarer, especially because like, I don't know, for the economic incentives for like allowing art that's made for adults or meant to be like something like a unique story, something that's meant to be like like a real like emotional or intellectual experience that you have like with other people, and that like you sort of have to like think about or sort of wrestle with, or just something that you experience like not with utter passivity, and also not something that's like tailored explicitly for you as an individual, right?
Right.
It's something that should be like received by everyone, and like the reactions can be different, but like crucially, like when you sit in the theater or when you watch even on your TV, like what you're receiving is the same for everyone. And I think now with like, like what a lot of what these demons are promising with like AI, or like just like the slopification of everything, and just like the short form video and content and everything like that, is just like everything could be like personally applicable to you. Like we're just like, oh, like why watch a movie that's the same every time you watch it? Like with AI, you can have like, Marlon Brando in The Godfather, but he's talking to you and telling you about products that you might like to buy from Amazon in the future. Like
that does
you
sound kind
come
of
to my
cool.
home on the day of my daughter's wedding,
Right?
And you didn't even bring the Theragun massaging vibrator for my daughter.
Hey, Mike Recine, there's a new flavor of sausage that's out right now. Whoa. I'm like, what are you kids watching? Let me see that. No, Dad. That's interesting. So, because I remember my uncle used to like make his kids read, and so you hear stories about like we went on vacation and my dad made us read. So maybe like we'll be on vacation. Like I'll be like, but my kids will be watching like they'll have a VR helmet and there will be like a straw hooked up to it. It just feeds them soda. And I'm like, take that helmet off, guys. Take that helmet off. And then I'd pull out a DVD player.
Yeah, I'd be like, stop with your VR Roblox, grooming experience that you're going through right now. Like you're sitting down and as punishment, you're gonna watch Happy Gilmore. Yeah, that's right. And you're not gonna look at your phone for 90 minutes.
Exactly.
You're gonna watch Billy Madison, and like that'll be the equivalent of like, I don't know, like reading the Iliad in like 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, but then I'll be like, oh, they took Happy Gilmore off Netflix, so we just have to watch.
Yeah.
That drives me insane.
Oh God, I hate it.
Just shuffling. I mean, it just
gets shuffled around. Like, okay, I've said this before, but like, we're made dictator for life of America. If I had like, any real power or authority to do this, like, I think there should be 2 streaming services. One is called movies, and the other is called TV.
Great.
And just like one of them, all the TV shows.
Yeah.
The other one, all the movies.
Yeah. And you can switch back and forth.
Well, it's just like, or
you freeze your membership.
Exactly.
Yeah. If money's a little tight, you could freeze your membership.
Okay, I just want TV this month.
Right. Yeah, I only have like 30-minute increments to watch something. Yeah, it's really like it really just devalues the thing, the way they keep. I feel like it
devalues it when it's like when it's like immediately available to you.
Yeah.
Like if it's a first release movie and they're like, oh, it's on Netflix like the day it's released, so you don't have to go to the movie theater. You can just like watch it in your house, and you can pause it. Like watch it in like half an hour increments. Like do something else. Have a second screen experience now, which is like basically. Like people who pitch things to Netflix basically said like Netflix like has an algorithm that basically determines like that just has baked into it the assumption that like anyone watching what they produce will be also looking at something else on their phone or possibly watching another TV show. So like you need to assume that like when you write something that like it's written for someone who's like half paying attention.
Yeah.
So that is very bleak, but. No, but like,
Yeah, but
or like TV show, like when House of Cards came out on Netflix, and there was that kind of like, oh, it's like bingeable. It's like the whole season is available to watch immediately, and like that was a novel, fun thing because like being previously having to like wait every week to like see the next episode of the TV show, but when you make it all instantly available, if what you have is good, I think you're undervaluing it. You're devaluing it because and also because you're shortening dramatically the amount of time that like what you created will be in the conversation, like the water cooler conversation is what they used to call it. But like parceling it out and making people wait a week until the next episode, like you lengthen. I think it allows for like a broadening of like the kind of cultural impact or how much it'll just be in the discussion and on people's minds, rather than something that like if you just like blaze through it, you can go through the whole thing in like an evening.
Right. Yeah. Imagine if we just released like a whole year of Recine time in one day. I might do that actually. Let's record like 10 episodes and then I'm gonna go work at the post office.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're talking about how all media is going to become more personalized and going to the movie is going to be kind of like legacy, like reading a book is now. And obviously we already kind of talked a little bit about how this is going to kill art. It also kind of has implications for propaganda. What do you guys think about that?
So they can find out like what you're susceptible to.
So like I'll be scrolling through Instagram, right? And like the algorithm will know my likes. It'll know like I'll have like basically like a digital like personality profile of like all my tastes, opinions, beliefs, sexual proclivities. And then out of nowhere, it'll be like AI generated Walter Matthau. And he'll just be like, hello, Will, it's Walter Matthau here. I just want to say, why Israel, it's the Jewish state. It's the only democracy in the region. They have a right to defend themselves. And here's that Jack Lemmon. It's my pal Jack Lemmon. Remember us? From grumpy old men. Well, we gotta look. There's nobody starving. There's nobody starving in Gaza. There's nobody starving in Gaza.
Wait a minute. They made cherry tomatoes. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait. What about all your technology?
Do you like Waze?
Do you like Brett Gelman? I am definitely susceptible to sort of the right wing anti-Israel stuff. I find myself kind of being like, yeah, let's form a big coalition. But then it's like the left is also kind of. Who's gonna mobilize us and organize us besides like the Antichrist?
Well, like I said, we're all waiting for that miracle.
The miracle,
maybe
yeah.
He's out. Maybe he's being born right now.
Maybe he's being born right now. Yeah. Maybe it's Benny. Yeah. Yeah.
Have you checked for any strange birthmarks or anything like that?
No, but I should.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remind me to do that when I get home. Son, take your clothes off. Cool. Anything else? Anything we didn't get into? Well, yeah, because I do think about art, but like, is any type of art? Do you think any type of art is like apolitical?
It depends on what you mean, because like, I think all art are like like has a message. It has a story to tell. It isn't just come out of a vacuum, right?
Okay. What about this? When Rodney Dangerfield is like, my wife wants to have sex in the backseat of the car and she wants me to drive. Is that political?
Yes.
It is?
No. Like, it's political in so much as that, like, what makes that joke funny, right?
That
like,
he's being cucked?
Yeah. Well, like the assumptions that go into it, who Rodney Dangerfield is as a character. Like, look, there's a difference. Like, everything has a message and everything has a context. And like those messages and contexts are like, even without you even trying to, are filtered by and shaped by politics in one way or another. That being said, like there's a difference in art that has a self-consciously political message to state, or or wants to use the art as a vehicle to make a specific conscious political point. And like that's different from acknowledging that like everything is about something, even something that's trying self-consciously to be about nothing or as stupid as possible is still making a point in a way about like about whatever value that the person who created it like has or wants to, or like why they think it's funny, why it lands with people or doesn't land with people, exists in a context which is like shaped by politics or like has some sort of political valence to it. Like that being said, like it doesn't usually neatly break down in like a right-left dichotomy, but like I think like if you think about movies or art of any kind, like it all has a message. And even if that message is like, I'm just trying to do something stupid and funny, and like dumb and like entertaining, and I don't want people to think about it. Well, like that in and of itself is kind of a political point of view,
right?
If not a political point of view, it's a political choice you're making,
right?
To be apolitical in a way.
Right. So my wife wants to have sex in the back of the car, and she wants me to drive. Is that like?
Well, this is subverting gender expectations and norms, and that's why it's funny because like a wife shouldn't be having sex with another man while you're driving in the car while you're driving it.
No,
but
that's wrong.
Because that's wrong. That's why it's funny.
Yeah, right.
Like if we didn't live in a misogynist society, people would be like, Rodney, like that's great. I'm glad your wife is. They're just like, wait, why is that strange? Why is that strange? Yeah.
And I guess we all kind of feel like cucked by society.
Yeah, absolutely.
And an AI slop. All right. Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next week. Patreon.com/Recine time. Thanks for listening. And take care. We'll see you over on Patreon or next week. Bye-bye.